This game I prepared to show you is from 2012 World Championship match between Viswanathan and Boris Gelfand, and we looked at Game 7 last Thursday where Gelfand won, if you remember, but immediately the very next game he actually lost very badly here in this game. So I like to show you this game and we can analyze. So it was very important because Anand managed to win right away to equalize the match. So he decided to play d4, knight f6, c4, g6, and a couple of games before Gelfand played Grunfeld, so it looks like this was his opening for the match, and he didn't have any problems. So he was making relatively easy draws. So that's why now in this game Anand plays f3. This is a sharp move because he wants to play e4 here. So very, very sharp idea. Like let's say if you still play d5, takes, knight takes e4, and white will get the control of the center, develop the knight on c3. So it leads to a very sharp positions. So Gelfand didn't play that. He decided to play c5, attacking the center. So now white plays d5, d6, e4. Can you tell me which opening now this looks like and which variation? Because it's not Grunfeld anymore. So which opening you think this is? Yes?
London?
No, London usually no. We keep the pawn on d4 in London. This is yes, this is a King's Indian opening. And which variation? This looks like same-ish. Correct. Yeah, this is the King's Indian opening, same-ish variation. So bishop g7 played here, and let's say if you played knight c3 here, it would just be the same-ish. But here Anand played more rare move, knight e2. In fact, I've played this move a couple of times myself. This was played, yeah. After seeing this game, I actually used this opening, and I won a pretty nice game against a strong grandmaster. The point of this move is in the main semish line. The big problem is where to put this knight. Let me just explain to you so you can understand clearly. So knight e2, e6. White really has a problem where to put this knight because he needs to move this knight to develop his bishop so he can castle. So oftentimes they put the knight on g3 where actually the knight doesn't, it's not placed well here at all because it cannot go anywhere. And oftentimes black plays h5 and h4 as well to attack this knight. So that's why the knight is always a problem, where to develop this knight. And the point of this move is you play knight e2, and if castle, he wants to put this knight on c3. And if for some reason you play e6, just the natural development, and then I can simply go knight d2 and knight c4. See how nice the knight will be on c4 now? It's a very good outpost, putting pressure on d6, and you can even play bishop f4, apply more pressure here. So that's why they play the move knight e2. Of course, it's not so easy. There are other responses black can do, but it's very interesting. So if you don't know what to do against King's Indian, you may look at this game and a couple of other games. You'll see my game against Grandmaster Bochkov, where I also played this move and won. It's not a bad system. It's still sharp, but it's very interesting. So knight e2. Gelfand was probably still well prepared because for World Championship you study everything. You study the main lines, the rare lines, the lines that you probably shouldn't study. You study all the lines because you never know what the opponent can do. But this is very sharp play from Anand. Immediately, after losing the previous game, he's trying to equalize here. Very sharp. So he castled, and as I mentioned to you, knight e2 c3. If he plays knight b2 c3, he just transposes to the main semish lines with the c5. So knight ec3. And now there are several moves here. As I mentioned, e6 is one. There is also knight a6, interesting move. And knight h5. Novelty by Gelfand and his team here. But it says he spent a lot of time here, so perhaps it was an over-the-board novelty or something. Because at that time, this was still a very new idea, knight e2, knight c3. It became very fashionable after this game, because any interesting or new idea played at the world championship level, people are going to look immediately and try to analyze and play. Knight h5, the move looks a little bit shaky because you're putting the knight on the side of the board, which is not ideal. But the point is, black wants to play f5 immediately to try to open the position here, to try to get counterplay. And here, bishop g5. Interesting move to try to put pressure. Of course, he could have also played the move g4, forcing the knight back, which looks natural. But after h5, h4, you have an attack, but he also can play e6. So it's going to get a little bit complicated here. Black will try to open the center, and it's definitely sharp. Now he wants to play b5. It looks like white is close to try to deliver a strong attack, but it's very difficult because you don't have that much development, see? Pieces are not developed. When your pieces are not developed, then you don't have pieces to mate with. So you're going to need to spend some time to develop those pieces. So Anand played bishop g5, and both players are playing the way that you can see that they're just kind of experimenting. So these are not the moves that you would actually sit and analyze with the computer. So bishop g5, trying to pin the pawn on e7. He played bishop f6, trying to get rid of the strong bishop that is causing some problems there. Another alternative here is h6 here, but I could understand Gelfand for not playing this one because you don't really want to push the pawns in front of the king, because later on after queen d2 it's going to be a problem. You will be pressured. So that's why I played bishop f6. Bishop takes f6. And now he can take back with a knight, which I think it's a very natural move. And it's quite surprising why Gelfand was playing such a risky way in this game, because he had the lead already in the match, and he could have just played normal and, for example, e5. Now center is closed, and it's playable position. It's about equal. But he played very concrete, took back with a pawn, and again he wants to play this idea f5. But now queen d2. Good move. What is the idea behind this move? Can you tell me why he played that move, queen d2? Do you see what he's trying to achieve here? Exactly. Well, first he's taking this square under control, and then when he plays g4, the knight cannot come there. So f5, trying to undouble the double pawns. And now, if you allow black to play f4, like let's say you make a natural move, but you allow f4, it's going to be a big mistake, bishop d3, because after f4, black is just better, because he will play knight d7, knight e5, and then he has a very strong knight there, and the center is completely locked, so there will be no counterplay. Black will be very active here. So here, taking is pretty much forced. Of course, taking back with the pawn is out of question because it weakens the position of the king and creates a lot of weaknesses. But here, Gelfand took back with the bishop. There were some other alternatives. Check with the rook and take. It actually transposes to almost the game. So that's an idea as well. Another move was queen h4 check. But king d1, bishop takes f5, g4. Trying to win some material. Bishop b1, rook b1, knight g7, and king c2. I mean, this looks not so clear. Knight d7, queen e1 takes. Maybe white is a little bit better, but this is very deep analysis after the game. The game finishes, and then, of course, during the game, even very strong grandmaster, it's very difficult to play like this because the moves are not clear. I just wanted to show you that afterwards, analysis point out that it was about equal. Yes. So he took bishop takes f5 and g4. Again, it was just a very risky play here by Gelfand. That's why he lost this game, and actually he blundered something as well. It's very concrete, this position. So here, he played rook e8. And this is slightly dubious already here again. Better is to play queen h4 check, king to d1, capture, and transpose this to the previous line, basically, where we exchange queens. So about equal position. Rook e8 now, he played king d1. Again, this is still a fork. So you have to do something. So he took on b1. Rook takes b1, and here comes the blunder. He played queen f6, thinking that white needs to protect f3, otherwise he will just win the rook. But he missed an idea there. He should have just played here knight f6, but after king c2, white is better, because he will go bishop d3, h4. White is slightly better. Also, white is better after knight g7, h4. Yeah, but it's still a long game here. It's not so clear. I mean, white has a better position, but it's not like white is winning here. So he played queen f6. Now, let's see now if you can see the winning idea for white from now on. It was only 17 moves in this game. One of the shortest games in the World Championship. Okay. Check. Correct. Takes the rook. Bishop. The problem is I take the pawn on h2.
How about queen to f2?
Correct. That's the move he missed, actually. He missed the move queen f2 because that way now he controls the square and getting ready to play bishop d3. And the queen on h1 is going to get trapped. See, that's the problem here. The queen is going to be trapped on h1. You move the bishop, the queen is just trapped now. So he has to go here and bishop to d3, trapping the queen.
Did he resign at this point?
He resigned here, right here. Yeah. There was a very nice documentary actually, and then Gelfand mentioned that he was so upset, after the game that, to have the lead and then just, give it away like this. Very, very painful loss, but he played too risky. When you play risky, then, the position is going to get sharp and you're just going to miss one move. He just really missed his move. He just really missed this idea. He probably looked at this and he saw that he has, ideas like queen g1 escaping to d4, for example, but he just completely overlooked queen f2, and after which knight d7. He just traps the queen. He resigned because if he takes, king takes, he could have played on, but it's just not enough. It's just not enough compensation here because essentially he's playing down a piece. So that's why. Okay, let's see. let's go back and just review this game to make sure, because it's quite a complex game here. It's one of the most complicated games, at least in the opening stages. So let's review one more time, do an over review of the game to make sure we understand a little bit better, and then I have some very good endgame positions for you after, okay? To improve your endgame technique. So let's start now. First move, go ahead. D4, knight f6. Second move, c4. So Gelfand is aiming for a Grunfeld. Anand didn't have much success with it, so he didn't want Grunfeld. Or he wanted a very sharp version of Grunfeld, so that's why he played this unusual move. And that move is f3, yes. And now he played c5, attacking. c5 is kind of interesting because white is weakening the dark squares, so c5 is very direct to the point. So d5, continue, d6. So when you play f3, you want to put your pawn where? e4. So the name of the opening is now King's Indian Defense, correct? Which variation is this? Semish. Okay, remember Semish. Yeah, Semish came up with a couple of systems in, like this is one, and he has also Semish system in Nimzo Indian Defense as well. Now, what did he play here? Knight e2, correct. And do you remember? Do you remember why he played this move? What is he trying to do?
Knight c3.
He's trying to put that knight, not this knight. This is like automatic move, but we don't want to do that. We want to put this knight here because in this Semish system, the problem is always this knight on g1, to where to put him. Okay, so that's why he wants to put it on c3, and then later on, he will decide on what to do with this knight. Likely to go to d2 and c4 if it's available, or some other squares. So that's kind of a deep idea. I like it. I really like this idea. So that's why I played a couple of times myself this. So castle. Knight c3. Knight h5, trying to be sharp. Activating his bishop. Bishop f6. Again, if you check this game with the computer, don't be surprised if computer suggests completely different moves, because they're on their own. Even though it's World Championship, they're completely on their own here, I think, because the position is very complex. There's several other ways to play. It's not like, no, you have to play this way only. There are many different ways how you can play in this opening. So, but he chose to play bishop f6. But in general, it's a risky thing to do in the King's Indian to exchange the dark square bishop, because we know that that's the bishop you want to keep, because your king is not as safe once you exchange that bishop. So this decision was, this is the moment where it became already a little bit risky. So what did Anand play here? Bishop takes bishop. E takes f6. Again, playing it too risky. There was absolutely no need to go for those complications. He could have just taken back, queen d2, and just played the e5 move, and I mean, probably computer will say white is a little bit better because of the space advantage. The pawn on d5 is giving him space, but it's just absolutely playable position here. So no major problems here for black. My impression also of this game is that Gelfand didn't want to go for a slightly worse position. So perhaps those positions he evaluated slightly worse for him, and he didn't want to kind of suffer, so he wanted to go for something more concrete. So that's why he made this decision. So he took back with the pawn. Now, what did Anand play? Queen d2. Developing a piece, controlling the f4 square, so he can play g4. And at some point, even queen h6 is a possibility. And now we're going to see why it was not a very good idea, perhaps, to exchange the dark square bishops. f5. Makes sense, because that's the reason. That's the only reason he took back with the pawn, so he can play f5. But now it's going to get complicated. You have to. As we discussed, if you play a very natural looking bishop d3 move, again, e takes f4, it's, again, a very difficult move to play because your king is in the middle, you're opening up a line. This is very risky thing to do, but he has to because otherwise he could be just worse. Bishop d3, f4 immediately, knight d7, knight d7, knight e5. It's a fantastic outpost for the knight on e5, and black will be just dominating there. And then he suggested e5, but it's just not enough because you don't have enough development. Another active move. We try to play h4 to secure the g5 square, but it doesn't work. f5, knight gf6, and eventually this e4 pawn will start marching down. e4, e3, and black will win. So that e5 idea doesn't work. We do need to look for these ideas, okay? So it's important idea to look. It's just here we don't have enough development. If we had the knight out, we were castled, we might have been able to play that, but not right now. So takes. Again, there were a lot of alternatives. Gelfand could have played safer, but he played the way he wanted. So play bishop f5. Now, g4, rook e8. Another inaccuracy. Queen h4 was suggested, and this leads to that endgame that we looked at it. Bishop d1, or actually you can even play queen f2. Even exchange queens, bishop b1, moves the knight. It should be okay for black. No big problems. But he played rook e8 check. Anand goes king d1. And now it's fork, so he has to take on b1. And here again, he could have just moved the knight. But then he probably went for this idea a couple of moves before. And I think he might have moved quickly here, because he was sure that this is his main idea, because otherwise he wouldn't go for this position, because both retreats are worse for him. If he goes there h4, h5, white is clearly better here. It's still a game, it's still a long game, anything can happen, but white is better. That's one thing is clear, because he will just play bishop d3, king c2, and then h5 is coming, very unpleasant, and launch a strong attack. If he goes knight f6, again, king c2, and as the yellow arrows are showing you, bishop d3, h4, h5, white is better. So he didn't want to go for this position. I think a couple of moves earlier, he anticipated this position, and he said, I'm going to play the move queen f6, which he did. But this has turned out to be a blunder and resulted in one of the shortest games in the World Championship history. Do you remember what happened?
Pawn takes knight.
Pawn takes knight. Check. Queen f2. Excellent idea. Then you want to... This is what the move that he missed. The move queen f2, because he thought, you know, if queen f4, queen g1 he can say, but he missed queen f2. And now the queen is trapped. Very, very unfortunate situation. And he resigned here because bishop d3 is coming. Let me ask you a question. If opponent plays knight a6, what do you need to do here? Because obviously this move has one purpose, right? To check you, right? a3, yes, you can play a3. That's absolutely fine. You can also, yeah, I think that's the simplest thing to do. Just go a3 to just stop the idea. Don't try to make the line work. You might be able to still win his queen, but it might get complicated, okay? So you don't want that. You want to just work the line. Just stop his threat. Opponent makes a move, creating a threat, you just stop it. And then your threat is still there. His king, you know, his queen is in the box. It's not moving. So then you go bishop d3 and win the game. So he resigned, and this helped Anand to equalize the match. And eventually the match ended in a draw, and then they went to tie breaks, and Anand won by very minimal margin, 2.5, 1.5 in the playoffs to retain his title. Okay, so this is the game, the World Championship game today, and now I have some endgame positions for you. So let's start off with this position. This is a game played by a world champion, Vladimir Kramnik. That's a very, very nice play, and he played against very strong player, Alexander Morozevich. One of the most creative players. He's not as active anymore, but when he's on fire, he could win against anybody. He was actually almost 2,800 a few years ago. So it's too bad we don't see him that, playing more now. Okay, so this is the game. Kramnik is white in this game, and as you can see, he has what we call a positional advantage. Why does he have the positional advantage here? Who can tell me the reasons why white is better here? Pass pawn, and what kind of pass pawn this is? Protected pass pawn. Not just a pass pawn, because if it's just a pass pawn, it could be a weak one. It could be a liability, but here it's protected pass pawn. When there is no pawn that can stop him, that's a pass pawn, right? And it's protected. So that's one plus. What else you can mention here? Do you look at the structures? When you see a position, I think the very first thing you need to do is look at the pawn structure. So when you look at that, what do you see here? What do you see here? Black has double pawns, that's correct. And usually, when you have a double pawn, it could result into extra pawn island. Okay? How many pawn islands you see here for black? 3, right? 1, 2, and 3. So double pawns, that's why they're not good. They're not just weak, they actually split from the other pawns usually and become more islands. Now, 3 pawn islands for black. What about white? How many pawn islands for 2? Correct. Now, bishop versus knight. Bishop is more active because it's putting pressure also on f6, on the weak pawn as well. But it's not easy to play this position. If you don't play correctly right now, you will not have any advantage here. Nothing will be left. So let's play like Kramnik here. And the move is? Well, excellent. You just play like Kramnik. Very good. Fixing the weakness on f6 and preparing to play rook f3. Okay? g4, very good. Again, he's fixing this weakness and threatening to play rook f3 to put pressure on it. Very strong move, g4. See, you need to realize when to play g4 and when not to play g4, because sometimes you play the move like this, it weakens your king, and then you lose, and you're like, I'm never going to do this. So you you have to you have to realize when to do it. First of all, it's an endgame, right? If there were queens on the board, we're not going to do it. So, but there are no queens on the board, so that's why we do it. And second, it's gaining space. And the main idea, of course, we stop knight f5. Knight g6 played by Morozevich, attacking the bishop. So the next move is pretty much forced. It's under attack, so he goes bishop g3. And now he played a5, thinking there are no immediate threats. I can just play this move. And now it's actually, it's good to advance this pawn so he can have some breaks or something. So it's a5 is a normal move. Now, which piece we can improve here and activate? We could go rook c1. That's a fine move too. What is the advantage of having a protected pass pawn when it's already a little bit advanced? It gives you an outpost for your pieces in his territory. Okay, like for example, knight would have been nice here, right? But we don't have a knight here. Bishop d6. See, whenever you can make a move like this to put a piece in his position like that, that's a very good idea. You should do it. Because now you're activating your bishop. And do you see now the bishop is kind of dominating the knight, because the squares the knight can go to are simply taken by your bishop. So bishop is dominating the knight here in this position. So bishop d6. And the plan here, actually, if white just continue doing what he's doing, then the plan is actually, let's see if we can find it. What would be the winning plan here for Kramnik? If you're not familiar with Kramnik, is a former world champion. So one of the very, very top players. Currently number 2 actually in the world. So, yes.
Now rook c1.
You could go rook c1, but then you play rook c6, and you don't really have much. You want to open some lines, okay? Yes. f4, f5, great idea, and very nice, okay, for white. Okay.
What's the advantage of putting the bishop first and then playing f4, f5?
Oh, big advantage. Big advantage. Let's see. I'm going to ask you to answer your question. If you play this move here, which move he will play, you think? Which move he will play, think?
He'll play f5.
And then, I don't think this bishop is ever going to get here now. I don't see how you're going to get this guy there. So, be very careful, okay? Of blocking your own pieces, because then you might not be able to get out. So bishop d6. So that's why he can't just push his pawns here or just stay, because f4, f5 is just winning. So Morozevich tries to create counterplay, correctly so. Now h5, trying to maybe do something on the h file. So if you play h3, he just takes, and then rook h8, and some ideas. So you have to take actually here. You take and you attack. That's an extra pawn too. So he goes knight to h4. So if he puts a knight on f5, your rook will not be able to come to the g file, because he will always control that square. So you start with rook g3 check. Now he goes king h6. And for a moment it looks like maybe we didn't play very accurately, because this knight is going to land on f5, and we're going to likely lose the h5 pawn, and looks like we maybe blundered. But he calculated deeper. He calculated deeper here, and very nice play here for white. Again, the threat is quite obvious. He wants to go knight f5. So what to do against it? Yes? Bishop f4 check you can, but I just take the pawn. Did I take? I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, and here, I don't know. This is getting a little bit. I know it looks kind of strange, but I don't see threats, you know. So I think I can play like this. I'm not too worried. Yeah. Well, it's just the way the pieces are. It's going to be hard to mate here. Okay, so let's see. What else? What else you can do here? Don't let knight f5 threat discourage you from playing the correct move here. You're going to have to do a positional sacrifice here. Positional sacrifice. In fact, you're winning after that sacrifice, but to get to that moment to realize that you can do this, that's why we're doing this position, so you can see that. Yes?
Bishop to d7. d7. No, d7.
Okay, and how about knight f5? Did you see knight f5? Forking the bishop and a rook. Now don't stop now, think. Think, remember I said positional sacrifice, right? How about we sacrifice the rook? They give the exchange. But take the pawn, okay? Now he takes, right? And now, how you're going to recapture here? This is important. Very important, actually. Well, the first reaction to take with the h pawn, right? But then are you going to have an h pass pawn? No, right? So you already have a very strong protected pass pawn on a c file. If you can have another strong pass pawn on an h file with a powerful bishop planting on f6, you will slowly advance and just push his king back. You will actually win this game. So he actually took with this. It's very strong. To just understand that this position is technically winning for white. This is very difficult. Now I played rook g8, trying to activate a rook. He's trying to discourage g4, you know.
You can't take the pawn there, obviously.
Well, he can take the pawn too, but he's going to take the pawn next move. He's just trying to discourage the advance. But now, king g2 takes, and now no, he wants to go king g6. So you want to control the g4 square so you can start pushing, okay? Pushing your pawns. h3. Now he goes king g6, attacking your bishop. And now this move is very important you play, because if you move the bishop from f6, you don't have anything. He'll go f6, and you have to keep the bishop on f6 here. How? Rook f1. Yes. Complete domination here. Bishop cannot be moved from f6. You got the pass pawn, and now you're getting ready to do this. Push, push. Come up, and push. King h4. You just keep pushing. He can't do anything here. So rook f1 is good. Now he played king h7. He pushed. g4. You cannot push yet. What are you going to do first? King g3 first. Very good. Now he plays b3. This is where they just want to give you a pawn to create some kind of complication. What you going to say, huh?
Fix it on a3.
Fix it on a3, eh? Don't take it, because it will be some counterplay. Rook ac8. You push. Rook g6. You push. If he goes here, you go king h4 first, and then g5, trapping that rook. So you can't do that. Well, he has to go here, but this is just getting worse and worse now. Push. Push. Now it's permanently trapped. And now you can simply, there are several ways to win, but you can actually walk this way. That's one plan. Yeah, there's a few ways you can break through here and win. So yeah, it's amazing display of understanding of this position, because not too many even grandmasters would just sacrifice the exchange like that in the middle, in end game, to try to have a follow-up like this. Okay? Okay, so let's review this very instructive end game by Kramnik. Again, if you want to find this game, this is the game Kramnik Morozevich Dortmund tournament in 2001. Okay? Okay, so let's review all the way until where white is completely winning here. So this way we can see if you understand the ideas. Okay, who wants to start first? The first move, you need to play like Kramnik. Yes?
G4.
G4. The idea is, what is this move accomplishing? Yes? Yes, it's trying to go rook f3 and fixing. Very important to remember, you're fixing the weakness. When an opponent has a weak pawn, but he's ready to undouble or advance, you want to fix it. Okay? Fix it later to win it. Knight g6. Bishop g3. a5. He's just, he's just making some useful moves here. Now, which move he played here? Very important move here. Yes? Bishop d6, absolutely. It's a very good square, very powerful square for the bishop. And I think actually, looking at the game after bishop d6, I think this might be lost already. So I'm thinking maybe in this position, he should have actually went back. This is what I would have played, go knight e7 here. So if bishop d6, I can put my knight on c6. Knight is the best piece to blockade the pass pawn with. And here, he's combining the blockade with an attack. So at least now this way I can discourage this rook from moving. I think this is a much better way to play here. He just probably missed this idea. So this would have been, I think, tougher to break through. I think this f5 was inaccurate. Now we plant the bishop. Now no more, you cannot go there. So he played h5. If he would have sit, what's the winning plan here? Let's say he sits on the position like this. What is your winning plan here? f4 with idea f5, breakthrough and open up the e file. Okay. h5. And now bishop e7. Very good move, yes. Now again, this is a tough move to play because you're walking into a fork, you know. A lot of times it would be like, oh wow, that's just a fork, and we kind of quit, you know. We don't look deeper, but he had to understand that that position is actually very, very strong for him. Very strong positional exchange sacrifice. Knight f5, continue. Take the pawn. He takes the rook. And now this is another decision that is tricky. I mean, you actually want to take with the h pawn because they say, oh, I move the king up. But if you take with the h pawn, you have no advantage actually.
And it didn't work last week. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. F pawn, yes. But it's an endgame and actually very important to have an outside pass pawn, okay? This h pass pawn, we call that outside pass pawn. So it's very important. That's why he's doing that, because he wants to have a second pass pawn on h8. Now, rook g8, he's trying to discourage you from advancing these pawns. What are you going to do now? King g2, excellent. He takes. Don't rush. Don't rush now. You need to find a way to push those pawns slowly in the back. Yes? Correct. King g6 now. And if you don't play this move here, you have no advantage here. What is the correct move here? Rook f1, excellent. Protecting that bishop on a very powerful square. King h7, continue. Well, you can play g5 as well, but you can start with h5, attacking that rook. Rook h6. Don't rush, remember, yeah? Don't rush, just control. g5. h6. See that route? So let's say I will lock this position. I just want to see if you can just win this easily. So what's the plan here? Can you give me the plan here? There are a few ways to win this. So you also actually can advance your king and play g6 and make a break there as well. That's another very powerful idea. So let's say you come up, he sits on the position, you push. Takes, you take. Goes here. It's like you're smothering him now. If he moves away, checkmate. So, and if it sits this way, right, you just push this one. Push. You push. It goes here, and now, how about this? And what do we call this position, everybody? Zugzwang, eh? Yeah, where opponent cannot make any moves that Zugzwang, yeah, the German word. You cannot make a move that doesn't damage your position, actually. So it's a Zugzwang. Yeah, very powerful and impressive play by Kramnik. So remember the ideas, yeah? Fixing the weakness and not being afraid to even sacrifice the exchange in the endgame. Okay. And the World Championship game, just to review, we played Anand was white, game number 8 against Gelfand. So it was very short, 17 move win. A very very tough loss for Gelfand. That's you really don't. When you lose a game like that, it's like somebody else played the game. You just can't really find like something to console, because it was all you. You just kind of made a blunder and lost the game.